Welcome back to Inventor Oddity. If you're fascinated by the hidden stories behind history's greatest minds, hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell so you never miss an epic origin story. Today, we're diving into the life of Charles Darwin, father of evolution, and covering how a curious boy from Shrewsbury changed the way we see the natural world forever. From the earliest days of toddling about, Charles delighted in wandering the family garden, where white blossoms of the pear trees heralded each spring, and swallows flitted among weeping willows. Whenever he discovered an unusual shell, he would compare its shape, ridges, and coloration against the illustrated natural history volumes his father kept in the home library. His bright, inquisitive eyes always seemed to ask, how did these creatures live, and why do they differ so markedly in form? The earthy scent of damp soil after an overnight rain still lingered in the air, and the faint rustle of insects reminded Charles of long afternoons spent beside the garden stream. There, armed with a magnifying glass he had received for his last birthday, he would examine each flower's stamen and the delicate flight of moths. What began as a child's pastime soon became the hallmark of a future naturalist one, intent on listening to the whispered stories of rock strata and the fossils hidden beneath layers of earth, these eternal records of nature spanning millions of years. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the lingering fragrance of eucalyptus oil from the study's lamp and the residual sweetness of his mother's freshly baked oatmeal biscuits, Charles imagined distant adventures, watching penguins tilt their heads on Antarctic ice floes, listening to waves break along the Galápagos shores, and exploring the untamed beauty of exotic wilderness. This was the prologue to a vast journey, one in which he would meticulously document every footprint, analyze each specimen, and ultimately give birth to the theory of natural selection that would forever transform humanity's view of the living world.
In the hushed morning light of his classroom at Shrewsbury School, golden rays slipped through the old wooden window frames and illuminated the open pages of Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology. With tousled brown hair and ever-curious eyes, Charles carefully set the book aside. Around him, small wooden boxes neatly contained his geological specimens: fire-red sandstone, swirling white limestone, and fossilized sea snails etched with the softness of their original form. Rather than attend his lectures on medicine with full attention, Charles would slip into the school courtyard, where cracks in the turf revealed thin layers of earth concealing fossilized pebbles. He crouched, pried at the soil with a twig, and peered through his magnifying glass, his latest birthday gift, to discern each subtle striation. What creatures roamed here millions of years ago, only to vanish, he wondered.
Distant chatter about anesthetics and surgical techniques failed to capture Charles's imagination. Instead, he recalled the words of his mentor, Professor Henslow. The path to understanding nature lies not solely through dissection, but through patient, precise observation. Those words shone like a beacon, igniting his passion. Every time he touched pencil to paper, Charles sketched the forms of his finds, noting meticulously the date and location. The 15th of May 1826, ammonite. Fossil, River Severn bank. These entries were more than data, they were affirmations of the living bridge between ancient biological architectures and the vibrant present. In his eager gaze lay the seed of selective inquiry. Beyond asking what and where, he asked why, a deceptively simple question potent enough to rock the foundations of science itself. From afternoons like these, his yearning to explore would swell, eventually propelling him aboard HMS Beagle and toward the theory that would reshape our understanding of life.
Before dawn had truly broken over the open sea, Charles Darwin stood on the deck of HMS Beagle, breathing in the scent of salt and wind. The steady thrum of waves against the hull marked the start of their voyage, while the compass swung toward the distant southern horizon. Though his coat and sea boots still bore the chill of the night, Charles's heart burned with anticipation. Each day aboard Beagle unveiled a new realm. In the mornings, mist-cloaked Rio de Janeiro's bay, and jagged limestone peaks pierced the horizon. By midday in Patagonia, the sun's harsh glare turned rivers a rusty red, and at night the Chilean sky unfurled a constellation canopy, reminding Darwin of deep geologic time. On the Galápagos Islands, finches of varying beak shapes, each finely attuned to the food sources on its island, perched fearlessly on cacti. No two species are identical, he noted in his journal. It seems each island has selected its own variation of form. This observation marked a departure from Lamarck's notion of purposeful change. Darwin concluded that environmental pressures select variations already present, rather than organisms intentionally modifying themselves. Undeterred by the hardships of life at sea, Darwin spent hours in rocky inlets collecting specimens. He peered through his field binoculars at penguins waddling on ice floes, chipped away fossilized shells from cliffs with his geological hammer, and packed each sample in paper, labeled with date and location, refining the standards of naturalist documentation. As Beagle pressed on to Australia and then South Africa, his deck map accumulated countless red pinpoints. Darwin's footprints laid across the globe, each marking an idea poised to blossom into a revolutionary theory of life's ever-changing tapestry. A crisp autumn breeze still drifted through the corridors of Down House when, in 1836, Charles Darwin returned from his 5-year circumnavigation. His arms bore wooden crates brimming with mammoth fossils from North America, shelf fragments resembling slivered moons, and a journal overflowing with delicate script. He slammed the laboratory door behind him, inhaled the earthy warmth of the hearth, and smiled. This was only the beginning. By lamplit evenings, he opened Notebook B, his secret ledger of heredity and variation, and posed questions in dense rows of penmanship. If organisms are born with slight differences, and if those variations enhance survival, will they, over generations, become the norm? In the subsequent years, Darwin labored like a master craftsman, weaving together evidence from fossils, Galápagos finches, South African flora, and even biting midges of the Amazon. Each datum was logged with scrupulous detail, date, place, habitat, then cross-compared and synthesized into a cohesive argument. Unlike Lamarck's emphasis on intentional change, Darwin asserted that variation arises randomly and that the environment acts as a judge, permitting only the best adapted to survive and reproduce. In spring 1858, Darwin received a letter from Alfred Russel Wallace, who, halfway across the globe in Indonesia, had independently arrived at a strikingly similar theory. Darwin confessed to his friend Hooker, "I have long dreaded someone else publishing these ideas before me." Yet Wallace's work gives us a chance to present our findings together, strengthening the case for natural selection. And so it was, their joint papers were presented to the Royal Society, ushering in a scientific revolution. Within the august halls of Burlington House, skeptics bristled and proponents leaned forward, but gradually, all recognized a new truth: nature is not static, it changes, selects, and evolves. Beneath the dust of centuries, the echoes of Notebook B took root. Darwin's call reverberated across the scientific community: observe meticulously, record every minute detail, and embrace ideas that challenge orthodoxy. Between the randomness of variation and the power of environmental selection lay the secret to understanding life's myriad forms. In spring 1859, as cherry blossoms unfurled around Down House, Darwin welcomed his magnum opus into the world not with a baby's cry but with a dedication to his mentor. "I dedicate this work to Sir Charles Lyell, whose geological insights have illuminated my path and demonstrated nature's capacity for change." He turned to the pages of On the Origin of Species, where nearly a century and a half of biological history coalesced into chapters on variation, natural selection, geographic distribution, and artificial breeding. Detailed illustrations, survival probability charts, and Galápagos finch case studies formed an unassailable edifice for his groundbreaking thesis. In the drawing room of Down House, luminaries such as Joseph Dalton Hooker and Thomas Huxley, later hailed as Darwin's bulldog, debated passages over tea. "This is not merely a book," Huxley declared, "but a new methodology for all of biology." Yet the impact extended far beyond scholarly circles. News of Origin spread through London's postal routes and newspapers. Clergy warned their congregations, calling Darwin's ideas an affront to divine design. Journalists lauded it as humanity's greatest intellectual leap. At Oxford, theologian Samuel Wilberforce publicly challenged the premise: "If we all descend from other creatures, what becomes of the human soul?" Darwin chose not to attend but wrote to Huxley, "Scientific truth needs no ferocious rhetoric, it proves itself through evidence."
Influence on modern science and molecular biology. When Watson and Crick unveiled the double helix structure of DNA in 1953, they affirmed that natural selection drives beneficial mutations and preserves advantageous genetic sequences. Evolutionary medicine. The concept of antibiotic selection emerged as bacteria evolve resistance, compelling medicine to develop ever new treatments. Conservation biology. Understanding adaptive capacity guides strategies to protect genetically vulnerable species and maintain biodiversity. In today's age of AI and rapid technological change, Darwin's lesson endures. No matter how sophisticated our algorithms, the true arbiter remains the environment, be it markets, society, or ecosystems. Only those ideas and innovations aligned with real-world demands will survive. Flexibility and responsiveness are the keys to longevity, as Origin transcended ideological barriers and took its place in every laboratory and lecture hall. Darwin could scarcely have imagined that his vision would underpin all modern biological research. Its ripples, like waves upon a still lake, continue to spark new debates in anthropology, philosophy, and scientific ethics. Late one afternoon, golden sunlight filtered through the dusty shelves of Darwin's study at Down House, illuminating manuscripts still in progress. Before him lay The Variation of Animals and Plants Under Domestication 1868, in which he expanded on variability and selection through human-cultivated breeds. Not content with natural selection alone, Darwin probed sexual selection, Why do long-tailed butterflies or flamboyant peacocks thrive reproductively despite increased predation? Risk. He meticulously documented rock pipit's courtship rituals, noting individuals bearing pronounced traits often attract mates more readily, even at the expense of survival. Amid these experiments, news reached him of Gregor Mendel's work on inheritance conducted decades earlier, but rediscovered around 1900, revealing predictable patterns of trait transmission. Though Darwin never fully integrated Mendel's laws, later scientists would merge random variation and Mendelian inheritance into the 20th century. Modern synthesis. The convergence of Darwinian and Mendelian principles exemplifies science's cumulative nature. Theories do not stand alone, but interlock and strengthen each other. Natural selection explains which traits prevail. Mendelian genetics explains how they're passed on. Even in his later years, Darwin remained in lively correspondence with protégés and peers Joseph Dalton Hooker in England, Ernst Haeckel in Germany, and Asa Gray in America. His pen, ever moving across essays on biogeography, coral reefs, and South American geology. Though age weighed on him, his curiosity never dimmed, for he understood that each answer in science begets new questions.
On April 19, 1882, as Westminster's bells tolled across London, Charles Darwin's funeral cortege processed amid thousands of admirers. His grave marker, inscribed simply Robertson Darwin, concealed the man whose ideas reshaped our world. Yet his legacy extends far beyond Westminster Abbey. His name now graces numerous species, from the blind cavefish Cynocyclocheilus darwini of South America to antibiotic-resistant bacteria that exemplify ongoing natural selection. In the 20th and 21st centuries, evolutionary theory has become core curriculum and the guiding principle for multiple disciplines. Modern genetics, the Human Genome Project confirmed that minor genetic variations can yield significant evolutionary outcomes through selection. Evolutionary medicine, bacterial resistance to antibiotics illustrates Darwin's foresight about organisms evolving to survive. Ecological networks, insights into food webs and species interactions inform conservation strategies that preserve ecosystem resilience. In the AI era, natural selection's spirit lives on. Machine learning models evolve through iterative training, retaining accurate patterns while discarding errors. Darwin's mindset reminds us to refine, experiment, and embrace failure as integral to innovation. Though Darwin's own journey ended, his influence endures. From the boy captivated by shells on the banks of the Severn to the scientist who founded modern biology, his life teaches us the power of meticulous observation, steadfast patience, and the courage to welcome transformative ideas. As Darwin himself concluded, in nature, there is no finality, only endless cycles of variation and adaptation, a message to inspire every creator to keep evolving on their creative path.
And that was Charles Darwin's extraordinary journey from collecting shells by the Severn to revolutionizing biology with natural selection. If you found this deep dive inspiring, give us a like, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of history's most eccentric geniuses. See you next time on Inventor Oddity.